I never believed in fate until I met Timothy Mayer. Even now, 5 years into our marriage, I still remember the exact moment our eyes met across that crowded art gallery in Manhattan. He was standing beneath a cascade of golden light, examining an abstract painting with such intensity that I couldn't help but stare. When he turned and caught me looking, his smile was like sunrise breaking through storm clouds, unexpected, breathtaking, and somehow inevitable. "Adam," he'd said, as if he'd known my name all along. As if he'd been waiting his entire life to say it. That was how our story began. A story that everyone said was too perfect, too beautiful, too rare for this cynical world. Strangers would stop us on the street, commenting on the way Timothy looked at me, the way my hand fit perfectly in his. "You too restore my faith in love," an elderly woman once told us in Central Park, tears glistening in her eyes. But perfection, I've learned, is often just a beautiful lie waiting to shatter. It was a Tuesday morning when everything changed, or rather, when everything ended and began again. I was in my home studio working on a commissioned portrait when I felt it. A sudden, inexplicable coldness that seemed to seep into my bones. The brush slipped from my fingers, spattering crimson paint across the canvas like blood. My phone buzzed on the table and Timothy's name flashed across the screen. But it wasn't Timothy calling. "Mr. Mayer?" The voice was clinical, detached. "This is Mount Sinai Hospital. Your husband has been brought in by ambulance. You need to come immediately." The world tilted sideways. What? What happened? Is he? "Please come quickly, Mr. Mayer." I don't remember grabbing my keys. I don't remember running to the car. All I remember is the taste of panic, metallic and sharp, and the tears that blurred my vision as I raced through the city streets. Timothy's laugh echoed in my mind, the memory of his lips against my forehead that morning, his whispered, "I love you," as he'd left for his meeting. A meeting with Billy. Billy Chin, Timothy's best friend since college, his business partner, the man who had stood beside us at our wedding with tears streaming down his face as he toasted to our happiness. Billy, who came to our home for dinner every week, who knew how I took my coffee, who had held me when my mother died and told me everything would be okay. I should have seen it. God, I should have seen it. The light turned red ahead. I pressed harder on the accelerator, my heart hammering against my ribs. Just a little faster. Just a little. The truck came from nowhere, a massive wall of steel and velocity. I had one moment, one crystalline instant, to think, this is how I die. Without him. Alone. Then there was light and pain and darkness. And then there was nothing at all. I opened my eyes to sunlight streaming through gauze curtains, painting golden patterns across familiar walls. My walls. Our bedroom walls. The scent of Timothy's cologne hung in the air, sandalwood and bergamot, the expensive Italian brand he wore only on special occasions. I sat up, my heart racing, my hands trembling as I touched my face, my chest, searching for injuries that weren't there. The accident. The hospital. Timothy. Adam? Baby, you okay? I turned so fast my neck cracked. Timothy stood in the doorway, very much alive, wearing nothing but his gray sweatpants and that concerned expression that made his dark eyes soften. His black hair was sleep must, falling across his forehead in a way that made my fingers itch to brush it back. Timothy? My voice cracked. I stumbled out of bed, nearly tripping over the sheets in my desperation to reach him. You're alive. How? He caught me as I crashed into him, his strong arms wrapping around my waist with a familiarity that made me want to weep. Bad dream? He murmured against my hair. You're shaking. But it wasn't a dream. I could still feel the impact of the crash, still taste the copper tang of blood in my mouth. I could still hear that clinical voice telling me my husband was dying. I pulled back, cupping his face in my hands, studying every beloved feature. The slight scar above his left eyebrow from a childhood fall, the constellation of freckles across his nose that only appeared in summer, the lips I'd kissed 10,000 times and never wanted to stop kissing. What's the date? I demanded. Timothy's brow furrowed. February 14th. Valentine's Day. Adam, seriously, are you feeling okay? You look like you've seen a ghost. February 14th. The accident had happened on July 19th. 5 months from now. I had died 5 months in the future, racing to a hospital where my husband lay poisoned by his best friend. Poisoned by Billy. The realization hit me like a second collision. I knew. Somehow, impossibly, I knew. Not just about the accident but about everything. Billy's obsession. His careful planning. The way he'd looked at me at our last dinner party, his gaze lingering too long, too intense. The photos I'd once dismissed as Timothy being paranoid when he'd mentioned Billy's phone screen. Pictures of me from angles that suggested stalking, not friendship. Adam. Timothy's voice pulled me back. His hands were on my shoulders now, steadying me. Talk to me. What's going on? I opened my mouth, then closed it. How could I explain? How could I tell him that we'd already lived this, that we'd already died, that his best friend was planning to murder him? But when I looked into his eyes, I saw it. Recognition. Or understanding. You remember? I whispered. His face went white. The poison. Billy. The hospital. His grip on my shoulders tightened. The accident. Adam, I felt it when you died. I was already gone, but I felt the moment you... His voice broke. We stood there, clinging to each other, two men who had died and somehow been given a second chance. The impossibility of it should have terrified me. Instead, all I felt was crushing relief that I wasn't alone in this nightmare, and fierce determination that this time, we would survive. He killed you, I said, my voice hardening. Billy poisoned you after a business meeting. He told you, I couldn't finish. The words were too monstrous. He told me he loved you, Timothy completed, his jaw clenching. That he'd always loved you. That he couldn't stand watching us together anymore. He said he was sorry, but he'd rather see me dead than see you in my arms. Rage, white-hot and consuming, flooded through me. And I died trying to reach you. Crying so hard I couldn't see the road. Timothy's arms tightened around me. No. Not again. Never again. We sank to the floor together, our backs against the wall, holding each other as we processed the impossible reality. We had been given a gift. 5 months to prepare, to plan, to ensure that July 19th would never come to pass the way it had before. What do we do? I asked. Go to the police? Tell them what he's planning. With what evidence? Our memories of a future that hasn't happened yet? Timothy shook his head. They'd think we were insane. He was right. But we couldn't just wait for Billy to try again. We couldn't pretend everything was normal when we knew what festered beneath the surface of his friendly smiles. Then we handle it ourselves, I said quietly. We gather evidence. We expose him. And we make sure he never gets the chance to hurt us, or anyone else, ever again. Before we dive into this twisted, reborn, revenge and redemption, emotional love story, if you are obsessed with reborn and revenge stories, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and also comment on the story. And don't forget, this story is an original work of MeBL Stories. No copyrights. If you see this story in another channel, please report that channel for copyright and theft. Now let's dive in. Timothy turned to look at me, and something dark flickered in his eyes. Something I'd never seen before but recognized instantly because I felt it too. The desire for revenge. For justice. For protection of what was ours. Happy Valentine's Day, he said with a bitter smile. I leaned in and kissed him, tasting coffee and morning and life. His hand came up to cup the back of my head, fingers threading through my hair the way they always did. When we broke apart, we were both breathing hard. We're going to destroy him, I whispered against his lips. For what he did. For what he was going to do. Together, Timothy agreed. And in that moment, our second chance truly began. The thing about knowing the future is that you have to pretend you don't. That first morning, sitting across from Timothy at our kitchen table while he made his famous blueberry pancakes, was surreal. He moved through the routine exactly as he would have done 5 months ago. The same playlist on the speaker, the same dance moves as he flipped the pancakes, the same kiss pressed to my temple as he set my plate in front of me. Extra maple syrup, just how you like it, he said with that devastating smile. But there was a shadow in his eyes now, a weight that hadn't been there before. Or maybe it had been there all along and I'd just been too happy to notice. My phone buzzed. I glanced at the screen and felt my stomach turn. Billy, Happy Valentine's Day, lovebirds. Dinner at my place tonight? I'm cooking Italian. 7 p.m.? Timothy saw my expression and moved around the table to look at the message. His jaw tightened, a muscle twitching beneath his skin. We should go, he said quietly. What? Timothy. If we don't, he'll know something's wrong. We have to act normal. We have to make him think nothing's changed. He took my hand, his thumb stroking across my knuckles. I know it's going to be hell, but we need to be smart about this. He was right, of course. Billy was intelligent, observant. Any deviation from our usual behavior might tip him off. But the thought of sitting across a table from the man who had murdered my husband, who had driven me to my death, made rage and revulsion twist in my gut. I don't know if I can look at him without wanting to. I stopped, surprised by the violence of my own thoughts. I know. Timothy's voice was soft but edged with steel. But we will. And we'll smile and we'll laugh at his jokes, and the entire time we'll be planning how to dismantle his life piece by piece. I looked up at my husband. my beautiful, gentle husband who curated art galleries and cried during sad movies and left love notes in my jacket pockets. But this Timothy, this version forged by death and resurrection, had a hardness to him now. A ruthlessness that matched my own. Okay, I agreed. But I have some conditions. We're never alone with him. Ever. And we start documenting everything. Every text, every interaction, every time he looks at me too long or stands too close. Already ahead of you. Timothy pulled out his phone and showed me a new app he'd downloaded. Automatic backup of all messages with encryption. And I'm installing security cameras around the house today, the kind that upload to cloud storage in real time. When did you become so paranoid? His expression darkened. When I watched my best friend smile while poison burned through my veins and he told me he was going to comfort my grieving husband. The image made me nauseous. I pushed away my half-eaten pancakes, my appetite gone. Timothy knelt beside my chair, taking both my hands in his. Adam, look at me. When I did, his eyes were fierce and tender at once. I'm not going to let him take you from me. Not in this life or any other. Do you understand? Whatever it takes. Whatever it takes, I echoed. He leaned in, and our lips met in a kiss that was different from our usual morning affection. This was claiming, desperate, a reminder that we were alive and together and we had been given a miracle. His hand slid up to cup my jaw, tilting my head to deepen the kiss, and I opened for him immediately, needing the connection, the reassurance. When we finally broke apart, we were both flushed and breathing hard. Tonight, Timothy promised, his voice rough. After we get through this dinner, I'm going to take you upstairs and remind you exactly who you belong to. Heat pooled low in my belly. Is that a promise, Mr. Mayor? It's a guarantee. At 6:55 p.m., we stood outside Billy's apartment building, both of us perfectly dressed and smiling for any passers-by. Timothy wore the navy blue shirt I'd given him for Christmas, the one that made his eyes look impossibly dark. I'd chosen a soft gray sweater that Timothy loved because he said it made me look like a beautiful storm cloud. Ready? Timothy asked, squeezing my hand. No. But let's do it anyway. The elevator ride up to the 15th floor felt eternal. I studied our reflection in the mirrored walls. We looked exactly like the happy couple everyone expected. No one would guess that underneath our smiles we were planning revenge. Billy opened the door on the first knock, his face lighting up in that familiar, friendly way that now made my skin crawl. He was handsome in a sharp, polished way, designer glasses, expensive haircut, the kind of effortless style that came from old money and careful cultivation. There they are. My favorite couple. He pulled Timothy into a hug, then turned to me. Adam, you look beautiful as always. His hands lingered on my shoulders a beat too long. I saw the way his eyes traced down my body, quick enough that most people would miss it, but I was looking for it now. I knew what to look for. Thanks, Billy. It smells amazing in here. I kept my voice warm and friendly, even as I wanted to recoil from his touch. His apartment was exactly as I remembered. Minimalist decor, expensive art on the walls, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. And everywhere, I now noticed, were photographs. Some were of all three of us, but many were just of me. Me laughing at a gallery opening. Me absorbed in painting, unaware of the camera. Me and Timothy kissing, with Timothy's face slightly out of focus while mine was crystal clear. How had I never seen it before? How had we been so blind? Wine. Billy was already pouring 3 glasses of red. It's a 2015 Barolo. I've been saving it for a special occasion. Timothy's hand found mine under the table, squeezing gently. A reminder, we're in this together. What's the special occasion? I asked, taking my glass with a smile I didn't feel. Billy's eyes locked on mine, and for just a moment, I saw something raw and hungry flash across his face before his pleasant mask slid back into place. Having my 2 favorite people here. That's special enough, isn't it? We made small talk over appetizers, bruschetta and burrata that probably cost more than my weekly grocery budget. Billy was charming as always, telling stories from his and Timothy's college days, making us laugh. I watched him carefully, cataloging every micro-expression, every time his gaze lingered on me, every casual touch. Remember that time we drove to Atlantic City at 2 a.m. because Timothy was convinced he had a system for blackjack? Billy laughed, refilling our wine glasses. I did have a system, Timothy protested. It was foolproof. You lost $300 in 40 minutes. The system was still sound. I just didn't account for the fact that the house always wins? I interjected, grinning despite myself. It was one of my favorite stories, one Timothy always told with sheepish pride. Billy's expression softened as he looked at me. You know, Adam, you're so good for him. I've never seen Timothy this happy. This settled. His voice was wistful, almost sad. You're lucky men. We know, Timothy said quietly, taking my hand on the table. Every single day. Something flickered in Billy's eyes, there and gone in an instant. Jealousy? Rage? It was hard to tell beneath the layers of carefully constructed friendship. The main course was osso buco, rich and tender and perfectly prepared. Billy had always been an excellent cook. We ate and drank and talked, and the entire time I felt like I was walking a tightrope. One wrong word, one slip of the mask, and he might realize we knew. So, Billy said as he cleared the plates, I actually wanted to talk to you both about something. My pulse quickened. Timothy's hand tightened on my knee under the table. What's up? Timothy asked casually. Well, you know the Singapore deal we've been working on? I think we should take a trip out there next month. Just the two of us, scope out the properties in person. Billy smiled. What do you think? I felt Timothy tense beside me. In our previous timeline, that trip had never happened, because Timothy had died before they could go. Was Billy moving up his timeline? Changing his plans? Singapore sounds great, Timothy said smoothly. But actually, Adam and I were thinking of taking a trip ourselves next month. Anniversary's coming up, and I wanted to surprise him with something special. Our anniversary wasn't until June, but Billy wouldn't know that. Billy's smile dimmed slightly. Oh, well, maybe the month after. Maybe. Let me check our schedules. The rest of the evening passed in similar tension, each of us playing our roles. When we finally said our goodbyes, Billy hugged me last, his arms wrapping around me in a way that felt possessive. Take care of yourself, Adam, he murmured against my ear. You're precious. I managed not to shudder. Thanks, Billy. Dinner was wonderful. In the elevator, neither Timothy nor I spoke until the doors closed. Then Timothy sagged against the wall, his carefully maintained composure cracking. Did you hear what he said? About Singapore? He's planning something. Maybe not the same thing, but something. I pulled out my phone and opened the recording app I'd had running all evening. At least we got it all on tape. Timothy looked at me with something like awe. You recorded everything? I told you. We're documenting everything. I scrolled through the file. Listen to this part at 7:23, when he was talking about how good I am for you. We listened together, and this time without the distraction of having to maintain our performance, we could hear it, the edge of longing in Billy's voice, the way he said my name like a prayer, the bitterness underlying his words about us being lucky. He's obsessed, Timothy said flatly. How did I not see it? How did I work with him every day and not see? Because he's good at hiding it. Because we wanted to believe the best of him. I cupped Timothy's face, making him look at me. But we see it now. And we're going to stop him. Timothy's eyes blazed. Damn right we are. The next morning, I woke to find Timothy already up, sitting at his laptop in our home office with 3 cups of cold coffee beside him and shadows under his eyes. Did you sleep at all? I asked, wrapping my arms around his shoulders from behind. Couldn't. Too much going through my head. He pulled up a document filled with dates, times, and detailed notes. I've been reconstructing everything I can remember from before. Every interaction with Billy, every weird moment I dismissed, every time he offered to help me with something that would have put him alone with you. I scanned the document, my stomach turning. There were dozens of incidents, times Billy had volunteered to help me move art supplies when Timothy was out of town, invitations for just the two of us, to grab coffee or lunch, comments about my appearance that crossed professional boundaries. He offered to help me install those new shelves in my studio last month. I remembered. Said you were too busy with work and he had a free afternoon. I told him I could handle it myself. Timothy added it to the list. We need more than this though. We need proof of his intentions, something that would hold up if we ever needed to use it. What about his computer? His phone? If he's as obsessed as we think he is, there has to be evidence there. Breaking into his devices would be illegal. I raised an eyebrow. And we're concerned about legality. Why exactly? Timothy's lips quirked. Fair point. But we need to be smart about this. If we get caught, everything falls apart. We spent the rest of the day planning. Timothy, it turned out, had a contact from his college days who now worked in cybersecurity, someone who owed him a favor and didn't ask too many questions. I, meanwhile, started researching private investigators, looking for someone discreet who could surveil Billy without being detected. That afternoon, my phone rang. Billy's name flashed on the screen. I showed Timothy and he nodded. I answered, putting it on speaker. Hey Billy. What's up? Adam, hi. Listen, I'm at that art supply store you love, Blick on Bond Street? They're having a sale on oil paints and I remembered you were running low on cobalt blue. Want me to pick some up for you? Was thoughtful. Tentative. Exactly the kind of thing a good friend would do. And it made my skin crawl knowing what lay beneath. That's really sweet of you, but I actually just ordered some online. Thank you though. Pause. Oh, okay. Well, if you change your mind, I'm here for another hour. Will do. Thanks for thinking of me. After I hung up, Timothy pulled up a map. That store is 3 blocks from your studio. He's probably been waiting there, hoping you'd say yes so he could accidentally run into you. We should go, I said suddenly. Both of us. Show up together, be affectionate, make it clear that we're a unit. Timothy considered this, then nodded slowly. You're right. We need to remind him that you're taken. That we're solid. 20 minutes later, we walked into Blick hand in hand. Billy was at the checkout counter, and his face lit up when he saw us. Then immediately fell when he noticed our intertwined fingers, the way Timothy's arm wrapped around my waist. Timothy, I didn't know you were coming too. Wouldn't miss it, Timothy said cheerfully. Adam needed some new brushes and I wanted to check out their canvas selection. Thanks for the heads up about the sale. We spent 30 minutes browsing, very deliberately staying together, touching constantly, a hand on the small of my back, fingers brushing as we reached for the same item, quick kisses when we thought no one was looking but making sure Billy saw. I watched him watching us, saw the way his jaw clenched when Timothy kissed my temple, the way his hands fisted when I laughed at something Timothy whispered in my ear. You two are disgustingly cute, Billy said with forced lightness as we all left the store together. Can't help it, Timothy replied, pulling me closer. He's pretty irresistible. Billy's smile was tight. That he is. After Billy left, claiming he had an errand to run, Timothy and I sat in our car processing. Did you see his face when we kissed? I asked. I did. I also saw him take 3 photos of you when he thought we weren't looking. I slid down my spine. What? Timothy showed me his phone. He'd been recording video discreetly and sure enough, there was Billy with his phone out, angled toward me as I studied a display of paintbrushes, completely unaware. He's getting bolder, Timothy said grimly. Or more desperate. Either way, it's escalating. That night, we lay in bed together, neither of us quite ready to sleep. Timothy's fingers traced idle patterns on my bare chest, and I ran my hands through his hair, both of us finding comfort in touch. I'm scared, I admitted quietly. Not of dying, we've already done that. But of losing this. Losing us. Timothy propped himself up on one elbow, looking down at me in the dim light filtering through our curtains. You're not going to lose me. Not in this lifetime. Promise? I promise. He leaned down, capturing my lips in a slow, deep kiss that made my breath catch. His hand slid down my side, over my hip, leaving trails of heat in its wake. Timothy, I breathed against his mouth. I need you, he murmured. Need to feel you, to remember that we're here, that we're alive. I understood perfectly. The trauma of what we'd experienced, the death and resurrection, had left us both craving physical proof of our existence, our connection. I pulled him down to me, my hands sliding under his shirt to feel the warm skin beneath, the solid reality of him. We made love slowly that night, taking our time to relearn every inch of each other. Timothy's hands were reverent as they explored my body, as if memorizing me all over again. When he finally pushed inside me, we both gasped at the intensity of it, not just the physical sensation but the emotional weight of being together, alive, given a second chance. I love you, Timothy whispered as he moved against me, his forehead pressed to mine. I love you so damn much. Show me, I challenged, my voice breaking. And he did. With every thrust, every kiss, every whispered word of devotion, he showed me. We moved together in perfect synchronization, building toward that peak together, our bodies knowing each other so well that every touch was exactly right. When I finally came apart beneath him, his name on my lips, he followed moments later, burying his face in my neck as he shuddered through his release. Afterward, wrapped in each other's arms, sweaty and sated and more connected than ever, I felt something settle in my chest. A determination that went deeper than fear, stronger than revenge. We would survive this. We would protect what we had. And anyone who tried to take it from us would learn exactly what we were willing to do to keep each other safe. Over the next few weeks, a pattern emerged. Billy was always there. At gallery openings I'd casually mentioned attending, at the coffee shop near my studio, even once, coincidentally, at our favorite park during what was supposed to be a private morning walk. This is getting ridiculous, Timothy muttered after Billy had waved goodbye following an accidental meeting at the farmer's market. He's not even trying to be subtle anymore. I pulled out my phone and added the incident to our growing documentation. We now had a spreadsheet with over 50 encounters, each one annotated with time, location, and photographic evidence when possible. Timothy's contact, a woman named Sasha who dressed in all black and had a shock of blue hair, met us at a cafe in Brooklyn to discuss our options. "So, let me get this straight," she said, stirring her espresso. "You think your business partner is stalking Adam, and you want me to get into his devices to prove it?" "Not just stalking," Timothy corrected. "We have reason to believe he's planning something more serious." Sasha raised an eyebrow. "Like?" I glanced at Timothy. We'd agreed not to mention the murder or the time travel. No one would believe that. Like trying to break up our marriage. Or worse. "And you can't just go to the police because?" "Because right now it's all circumstantial. He's our friend. He has legitimate reasons to be in contact with us. But the frequency, the obsessive quality, we need proof of his true intentions." Sasha leaned back, studying us both. "You know, most people in your situation would just cut him off. Block his number, avoid him." "We've considered it," Timothy said. "But he's also my business partner. We own several properties together, have joint accounts for company expenses. Cutting him off completely would raise questions, potentially start a legal battle that would drag on for years. And you want to avoid that because?" "Because we want to finish this quickly and permanently," I said quietly. "We want him out of our lives completely, with no ability to ever come back." Something in my tone made Sasha's expression shift. She nodded slowly. "Okay. I can do this, but it's going to be expensive. And if anything goes wrong, you never met me." "Understood." 3 days later, Sasha delivered. A USB drive contained a complete backup of Billy's phone, pulled remotely through some technical wizardry she didn't bother explaining. "You might want to look at this alone," she warned. "Some of it's intense." She wasn't kidding. Timothy and I sat side by side on our couch, his laptop between us as we opened the files. The first folder was labeled Adam and contained over 2,000 photos, some taken from social media, but many that were clearly surveillance shots. Me walking to my studio. Me grocery shopping. Me sleeping in our bed, photographed through our bedroom window. "Jesus Christ," Timothy breathed, his face pale. "He's been watching our house. Our bedroom." My hands were shaking. The violation of it, the obsessive quality, made me feel sick. But we kept looking because we needed to see it all. The next folder contained chat logs from a private forum. One dedicated to people in impossible love situations. Billy had been active there for over 2 years, posting under the username, "Waiting for him." The posts were disturbing in their detail. He described me in ways that made my skin crawl, my delicate features, my pale skin that probably bruises so beautifully, my perfect submissive nature. I was anything but. He fantasized about scenarios where Timothy was no longer in the picture, where he could finally show Adam what real devotion looks like. And then we found the worst of it. A document titled The Plan, dated 6 months before our original deaths. It outlined everything in chilling detail: when to poison Timothy, after a business meeting when they'd be alone, what substance to use, thallium, slow-acting and hard to detect, how to console the grieving widow, how to slowly insert himself into my life until I realized I loved him too. "He was always going to do it," Timothy said, his voice hollow. "This wasn't some spur-of-the-moment thing. He's been planning to kill me for months. Maybe years." I couldn't speak, couldn't process. The calculated nature of it, the cold premeditation, was somehow worse than anything I'd imagined. Timothy pulled me into his arms and we sat there in silence, both of us shaking. Finally he spoke. "We have enough. This is enough to destroy him." "The police?" "No." Timothy's voice was hard. "The police would mean trials, publicity, having to relive this over and over. I want him gone, Adam. Permanently. I want him to lose everything, his business, his reputation, his freedom. I want him to suffer the way he planned to make us suffer." I pulled back to look at my husband. His eyes were blazing with a cold fury I'd never seen before, and I realized that death had changed us both. We weren't the same innocent, happy couple who died on July 19th. We'd been forged into something harder, more dangerous. "What did you have in mind?" I asked. Destroying Billy Chen required patience, precision, and a willingness to be utterly ruthless. Fortunately, we had all three. Phase 1 began with anonymous tips. The SEC received documentation about financial irregularities in Billy's business accounts, Irregularities that Timothy, as his partner, had complete access to. Nothing Billy had done was technically illegal, but it was enough to trigger an audit, tie up his assets, and create professional headaches. Phase 2 involved his social circle. We systematically leaked screenshots from his forum posts to people in his life. His other friends, his family, his colleagues, always anonymously, always untraceable. We didn't release everything, just enough to show his obsessive, unstable nature. People began to distance themselves, to see him differently. Phase 3 was more personal. We're going to make him confess, Timothy announced one evening. On camera, in his own words, we're going to make him admit everything he planned to do. How? Timothy's smile was sharp and dangerous. By giving him exactly what he wants. Or at least making him think we are. The plan was risky. I would meet Billy alone, wearing a wire, and tell him that Timothy and I were having problems. That I was questioning my marriage. That I needed space to think. Billy, believing he was finally getting his chance, would likely reveal his true feelings, and with any luck, his plans. I don't like this, I said even as I agreed to it. What if he tries something? He won't. Not yet. He'll want to woo you first, to make you think leaving me is your idea. Timothy cupped my face. And I'll be right outside the entire time, listening to every word. If anything goes wrong, I'm coming in. We set it up for a Friday evening. I texted Billy asking to meet for drinks, just the two of us, because I needed advice about something personal. He responded within seconds, suggesting we meet at a quiet wine bar in Chelsea. The wire was small, nearly invisible, taped to my chest beneath my shirt. Timothy checked it 3 times before letting me leave. I love you, he said at the door. Remember that. No matter what you have to say in there, no matter what role you have to play, I know the truth. I love you too. See you soon. The wine bar was dimly lit, intimate, exactly the kind of place someone might go to have a serious conversation. Billy was already there, sitting in a corner booth, 2 glasses of wine waiting. He stood when he saw me, his face lighting up with barely concealed excitement. Adam. Are you okay? Your text worried me. I slid into the booth, letting my shoulders slump, my expression troubled. Thanks for meeting me. I didn't know who else to talk to about this. Of course. Anything. What's going on? I took a sip of wine, organizing my thoughts, preparing to give the performance of my life. It's Timothy and me. We've been fighting a lot lately. Billy leaned forward, concern etched on his face, but I saw it, the flash of eagerness in his eyes. What about? Everything. Nothing. I don't know. I ran a hand through my hair. He's been so stressed with work, with the business, and he takes it out on me. Not physically, I added quickly, but emotionally. He's distant, critical. Sometimes I feel like I can't do anything right. None of it was true, of course. Timothy had been nothing but loving and supportive. But I watched Billy eat it up, watched him calculate how to use this information. That doesn't sound like the Timothy I know, Billy said carefully. But then, people can be different with their partners than they are with friends. I'm so sorry you're going through this, Adam. The worst part is, I look at other couples, at how they are together, and I wonder if I made a mistake. If I married the wrong person. I looked up at Billy through my lashes, vulnerable, uncertain. Does that make me terrible? No. Billy's hand covered mine on the table. No, Adam, it makes you human. You deserve to be happy. You deserve someone who treats you the way you should be treated, like you're precious, like you're everything. The way he said it, the intensity in his voice, made my stomach turn. But I forced myself to smile softly. Like how? Like. Billy seemed to struggle for words, then, as if throwing caution to the wind, he plunged ahead. Like I would treat you. Adam, I have to be honest with you. I've wanted to say this for so long, but the timing was never right. But if you and Timothy are having problems, if you're questioning things, then maybe now is the time. Time for what? I asked, even though I knew. For you to know the truth. I'm in love with you, Adam. I have been since the day Timothy introduced us. You're the most beautiful, talented, incredible person I've ever met, and watching you with him, knowing you're his and not mine, it's been torture. Pure torture. I didn't have to fake the shock on my face. Hearing it said out loud, even though I knew it was coming, was still jarring. Billy, I don't know what to say. Say you feel something too. Say that maybe, if things were different, you could see yourself with me. His grip on my hand tightened. Say that I have a chance. This was it. The moment we needed. But I had to push just a little further. If things were different, I repeated slowly. Billy, Timothy is your best friend. Your business partner. Even if I wanted to be with you, and I'm not saying I do, How would that even work? He'd never just let me go. Something dark flickered across Billy's face. Timothy doesn't have to be a problem. There are ways to handle that. What do you mean? I mean, he seemed to catch himself, to realize he was revealing too much. I mean, if you truly wanted to be free, if you wanted to be with me, we could figure it out together. These things can be handled delicately. But how? A divorce would be messy, expensive. And Timothy would fight it, you know he would. He'd never let me go without a battle. Billy's eyes locked on mine and I saw it. The calculation, the coldness beneath the veneer of friendship and love. What if you didn't have to divorce him? What if he just wasn't in the picture anymore? My blood ran cold. Billy, what are you saying? I'm saying, he stopped, took a breath, seemed to make a decision. I'm saying that sometimes to get what we want, we have to be willing to take drastic action. And I'm willing to take that action for you, Adam. For us. You're talking about, I couldn't finish, playing horrified and disbelieving. I'm talking about freedom. Your freedom. Our future together. He raised my hand to his lips, kissing my knuckles. Say yes, Adam. Say you'll be mine and I'll take care of everything else. Timothy won't be a problem anymore. I promise. I pulled my hand back, standing up on shaking legs. I need to think about this. This is crazy, Billy. You're talking about? I'm talking about love, he interrupted, standing as well. Real love. The kind that's willing to do anything for the other person. I would do anything for you, Adam. Anything. I have to go, I said, backing away. I can't. I need time to process this. Take all the time you need, Billy said, but there was something manic in his eyes now. But not too long. Because I've waited for you for years, and I'm not sure how much longer I can wait. I practically ran out of the bar. Timothy was waiting in his car around the corner, and I dove into the passenger seat, my whole body shaking. Did you get it? I asked. In answer, Timothy held up his phone, which had been recording the audio feed from my wire. Billy's voice played back clearly. I would do anything for you, Adam. Anything. We've got him, Timothy said, his expression grim with satisfaction. He basically confessed to planning to kill me. It's not explicit enough. A good lawyer could argue he was speaking metaphorically, that he just meant he'd help facilitate a divorce. Then we'll make him be more explicit. Timothy's jaw clenched. One more meeting, Adam. One more and we'll have everything we need to destroy him completely. I leaned my head on Timothy's shoulder, suddenly exhausted. I hated every second of that. Sitting there, pretending to be interested in him, letting him think he had a chance. I know, baby. I know. Timothy kissed my forehead. But you were amazing. And soon this will all be over. That night, we made love with a desperate intensity, both of us needing to wash away the taint of Billy's words, his touch. Timothy was almost rough, claiming me with a possessiveness that I welcomed, needed. Mine, he growled against my neck as he thrust deep inside me. You're mine, Adam. Say it. Yours, I gasped, my fingers digging into his shoulders. Always yours, Timothy. Only yours. We came together, crying out our pleasure and our devotion, reaffirming our bond in the most primal way possible. Afterward, as we lay tangled together, sweaty and satisfied, Timothy said quietly, "One more week. In 1 week we're going to end this. Promise?" I promise. And then we can finally have our life back. Our real life, without him lurking in the shadows. The week passed in a blur of preparation. We consulted with lawyers, without revealing the full extent of what we knew, refined our evidence and planned our final move with military precision. The setup was simple. I would invite Billy over for dinner at our house. Just him and me, because Timothy was out of town on business. In reality, Timothy would be hiding in our bedroom with recording equipment, capturing every word, every action. Billy arrived at exactly 7 p.m., dressed nicer than usual, designer suit, expensive cologne, his hair carefully styled. He had a bouquet of white roses, my favorite, and a bottle of wine that probably cost more than our monthly grocery budget. "For you," he said, handing me the flowers with a smile that didn't reach his eyes. "You look stunning, Adam." I was wearing a simple white button-down and dark jeans, nothing special, but I accepted the compliment with a shy smile. "Come in. I made your favorite, lamb chops with rosemary." "You remembered." His eyes gleamed with pleasure and possession. As I plated the food, Billy wandered around our living room, touching our things. The photographs of Timothy and me, the art we'd collected together, the throw blanket we'd bought on our honeymoon. His fingers trailed over each item with barely concealed disdain. "Soon you won't have to look at these anymore," he said. "Soon we'll make our own memories. Better ones. I set the plates on the table, my heart hammering. Billy, about that. About what you said at the bar. Have you made your decision? He moved toward me, crowding into my space, his hand coming up to cup my cheek. Are you ready to be free? To be mine? I forced myself not to flinch. I want to be. I do. But I need to know, when you said Timothy wouldn't be a problem, what did you mean exactly? Billy's thumb stroked across my cheekbone, and his smile was tender and terrible at once. I meant that I've been planning this for a long time, Adam. I have everything ready. There's a substance, thallium, it's slow-acting, nearly undetectable. When Timothy comes back from his business trip, I'll arrange to meet him for drinks. 1 dose in his whiskey and within a week he'll be gone. It'll look like a heart attack or sudden illness. No one will suspect a thing. My blood turned to ice. Hearing it said out loud in such clinical detail was worse than reading it in his documents. You've really thought about this. I've thought about nothing else for 2 years. His other hand came up, framing my face, tilting it toward him. I've imagined every detail, how I'll comfort you through your grief, how I'll be there for you, how eventually you'll turn to me for solace and realize that I'm what you needed all along. And then, when enough time has passed, I'll ask you to marry me. You'll say yes. And you'll finally be mine. That's. I swallowed hard. That's quite a plan. It's the perfect plan. And it starts now. He leaned in, his lips hovering just above mine. Tell me you want this, Adam. Tell me you want me. No. The bedroom door burst open and Timothy stormed out, his face a mask of fury and betrayal. Get away from my husband. Billy jumped back, his face going white then red. Timothy? I thought you were. In Chicago? That's what we wanted you to think. Timothy moved to my side, pulling me away from Billy. We've been recording everything, Billy. Every word. Every threat. Every plan to murder me. Billy's expression cycled through shock, fear, and then, chillingly, settled on cold anger. So this was all a setup. Adam wasn't really interested. Of course I wasn't interested. I snapped, my own rage finally breaking free. You killed us, Billy. In another timeline, another life, you poisoned Timothy and I died trying to reach him. And somehow we got a second chance, a chance to stop you before you could do it again. That's insane. You're both insane. But Billy's eyes were calculating, looking for escape routes. Maybe we are, Timothy said. But we have proof. All of it. Your surveillance photos, your forum posts, your financial records showing purchases of thallium, and now this, your full confession on tape. You're done, Billy. You can't use that. It was obtained illegally. We're not taking this to the police, I interrupted. We're taking it everywhere else. Your family, your clients, your business partners, every social contact you have. By tomorrow morning, everyone you know will see exactly what you are. A stalker, an obsessive, a would-be murderer. Your reputation will be destroyed. Your business will collapse. You'll have nothing. And, Timothy added, pulling out a thick folder, I've had my lawyers draw up papers dissolving our partnership. You'll be bought out at a fraction of what your share is worth, the penalty for what you plan to do. Sign them now or we release everything tonight. Your choice. Billy looked between us, trapped, desperate. You can't do this. I love you, Adam. I love you. That's not love, I said coldly. That's obsession. That's possession. That's the diseased fantasy of someone who thinks they're entitled to something that was never theirs to take. I would have made you happy, Billy insisted, his voice breaking. I would have worshipped you, given you everything. I'm already happy. I don't need you. I never did. Timothy held out a pen. Sign the papers, Billy. Walk away with what little we're offering and never contact either of us again. If you do, we go public with everything. And trust me, prison time for attempted murder isn't worth it. For a long moment, Billy just stood there and I saw the moment he broke. The moment he realized that his perfect plan had crumbled, that he'd lost everything. His hand shook as he took the pen and signed the papers, each stroke of the signature looking like it physically pained him. There, he said bitterly. You win. Are you happy? We're alive, Timothy said simply. That's all we care about. Billy looked at me one last time, and the longing in his eyes was almost pitiful. I really did love you, you know? No, I replied. You really didn't? Because love doesn't destroy. Love doesn't murder. Love doesn't steal. What you felt, that was never love. He left without another word, and the door closing behind him felt like the end of a nightmare. Timothy and I stood in our living room, both of us shaking with adrenaline and relief and triumph. Then suddenly we were laughing, Great, gasping laughs of disbelief and joy. We did it, Timothy said, pulling me into his arms. We actually did it. We're free, I breathed against his chest. He's gone. He can't hurt us anymore. Never again. Timothy's lips found mine in a kiss that was fierce and celebrating and full of promise. It's over, Adam. It's finally over. 6 months later, Timothy and I stood on a beach in Santorini, the sun setting in brilliant oranges and purples across the Mediterranean. It was July 19th, the anniversary of our deaths in that other timeline, the day we decided to celebrate as our second birthday. Can you believe it? I asked, leaning into Timothy's embrace. 6 months ago we were planning revenge. Now we're here watching the sunset with our whole lives ahead of us. Best decision we ever made coming back, Timothy murmured, kissing my temple. Best second chance anyone could ask for. Billy had vanished from our lives completely. The last we'd heard, he'd moved to Seattle and was working some low-level sales job, his reputation in New York completely destroyed. The business was thriving without him, and Timothy had found a new partner. A brilliant woman named Sarah who was professional, talented, and refreshingly not obsessed with me. You know what I was thinking? Timothy said, turning me in his arms. About how much time we wasted in our first life worrying about work and schedules and all the little things that didn't matter. And now I want to make every moment count. Starting with this. He dropped to one knee in the sand, pulling out a small velvet box. Timothy, we're already married. I know. But this time I want to do it right. I want to marry you again here now with full knowledge of what we're promising each other. That we choose us, every single day. He opened the box, revealing 2 new rings, simple platinum bands engraved with our new motto, second chances, first loves. Tears streamed down my face. Yes, 1,000 times yes. He stood and kissed me as the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the world in gold. And in that moment, I understood what we'd really been given. Not just a second chance at life, but a deeper understanding of how precious, how fragile, how infinitely valuable love really was. We died for each other. We'd killed for each other, or at least destroyed the person who threatened us. But more importantly, we'd chosen to live for each other, fully and completely, holding nothing back. That night, in our hotel room overlooking the caldera, we made love slowly, reverently, taking our time to worship each other's bodies and souls. Timothy's touch was tender, his kisses soft and sweet, as he showed me with every caress how much I meant to him. I love you, he whispered as he moved inside me, our bodies joined in the most intimate way possible. In this life and whatever comes after. I love you too, I gasped, my hands tangling in his hair. Always. Forever. We moved together like waves, building toward that peak slowly, savoring every moment. When we finally came apart together, it felt like a benediction, a prayer, a promise made flesh. Afterward, wrapped in each other's arms, I thought about Billy, not with anger anymore but with a strange sort of pity. He'd had everything, friendship, success, opportunities, and he'd thrown it all away for an obsession that was never real. We, on the other hand, had something true. Something that had survived death itself. What are you thinking about? Timothy asked, his fingers tracing lazy patterns on my shoulder. About how lucky we are. How rare this is, what we have. The rarest thing in the world, he agreed. Worth fighting for. Worth dying for. Worth killing for. I turned to look at him, at the man I'd chosen and who'd chosen me, across lifetimes and timelines. Worth living for too. Especially that, he smiled and kissed me once more. Outside our window, the stars came out one by one, mapping the sky in patterns older than time. And inside, we held each other close, 2 souls who'd found their way home. We'd been given a second chance at life, and we weren't going to waste a single moment of it. 2 years later. The gallery opening was everything I'd dreamed of. My paintings hung on crisp white walls under perfect lighting, a crowd of art enthusiasts and critics mingling with champagne glasses, murmuring their appreciation. Timothy stood beside me, his hand in mine, his pride in my work evident in every glance. This one's my favorite, he said, stopping in front of the largest piece, a diptych titled, Death and Resurrection. On one side, dark colors showed 2 figures falling, separated by darkness. On the other, brilliant golds and blues showed them rising together, intertwined, unbreakable. It's our story, I said softly. It is. And it's beautiful. A critic approached, asking questions about my technique, my inspiration, my process. I answered honestly, though I left out the supernatural parts. They wouldn't have believed it anyway. As the evening wound down and we prepared to leave, Timothy pulled me close, his arms wrapping around me from behind, his chin resting on my shoulder. "Happy?" he asked. I leaned back against him, feeling the solid strength of him, the steady beat of his heart against my back. "Completely." "Good. Because I have one more surprise for you." He led me to the back of the gallery where one last painting hung, covered by a cloth. With a flourish, he revealed it, a canvas I'd never seen before, one he'd apparently commissioned from a friend. It showed us, Timothy and me, painted in brilliant colors, standing together against the sunrise, our hands clasped, our faces turned toward the light. Below it, a plaque read, "To Adam, my first love, my last love, my always. In this life and all the others." I turned in his arms, tears streaming down my face, and kissed him with everything I had, all my love, all my gratitude, all my joy at having been given this impossible second chance. "Thank you," I whispered against his lips. "For fighting for us. For never giving up. For being the kind of love that transcends death itself. Always," Timothy promised. "In this life and all the others." And as we left the gallery that night, hand in hand, I knew with absolute certainty that whatever came next, whatever challenges or joys or sorrows, we would face them together. Because we were Adam and Timothy Mayer, and our love was the kind that wrote its own rules, that defied fate itself, that turned tragedy into triumph. We had died. We had been reborn. And we had learned the most important lesson of all, that true love isn't about perfection or ease or happily ever after falling into your lap. True love is about fighting for each other, choosing each other, protecting what you've built together with everything you have. True love is worth everything. And we had it. Forever. The night air in Santorini was warm against my skin as Timothy and I returned to our hotel room, the celebration of our recommitment still humming through my veins like champagne. He closed the door behind us and suddenly the world narrowed to just the two of us, the way it always did when we were alone together. "Come here," Timothy said softly, his voice dropping to that low, intimate tone that never failed to make my pulse quicken. I crossed the room to him and his hands immediately found my waist, pulling me flush against him. Our lips met in a kiss that started gentle but quickly deepened, months of gratitude and love and need pouring between us. His tongue swept into my mouth, claiming me thoroughly, and I melted into him with a soft sound of pleasure. "I want to take my time with you tonight," Timothy murmured against my lips, his hands already working on the buttons of my shirt. "Want to worship every inch of you, remind you exactly who you belong to." "Yours," I breathed, helping him shrug the fabric off my shoulders. "I'm yours, Timothy. In every lifetime." His eyes darkened with desire and emotion. "Damn right you are." He walked me backward toward the bed, never breaking our kiss, his hands mapping my bare torso with reverent touches. When the backs of my knees hit the mattress, I sat, looking up at him through my lashes. He stood above me, still fully dressed, and the power dynamic sent a thrill through me. "Lie back, baby," he instructed, his voice rough with want. I complied, stretching out on the white sheets, my pale skin stark against them. Timothy's gaze traveled over me like a physical touch, and I watched as he slowly undressed, revealing the body I knew as intimately as my own, broad shoulders, defined chest, the trail of dark hair that led downward to where his length was already hardening with arousal. He joined me on the bed, settling between my thighs, and began a slow exploration of my body with his mouth. He kissed my collarbone, my chest, taking time to tease each of my nipples until I was gasping and arching into him. His lips traced down my stomach, his tongue dipping into my navel, making me squirm. "Timothy," I pleaded, my hands threading through his hair. "Patience," he said with a wicked smile, even as his fingers worked open my belt and the button of my jeans. He slid them down my legs along with my underwear, leaving me completely bare before him. His hand wrapped around my length, stroking slowly, and I moaned at the sensation. "So responsive for me," he praised, his thumbs circling the sensitive head. "So perfect." He lowered his head and took me into his mouth, and I cried out at the wet heat enveloping me. Timothy was talented with his mouth, knew exactly how to use his tongue, how much pressure to apply, when to take me deeper. I lost myself in the pleasure, my hips rocking up gently as he worked me toward the edge. But before I could finish, he pulled back, ignoring my whimper of protest. "Not yet," he said, reaching for the bedside table where we'd stashed our supplies earlier. "I want to be inside you when you come undone." I watched through heavy-lidded eyes as he coated his fingers with lubricant, warming it between his hands before reaching down to prepare me. The first finger slid in easily, we'd made love just that morning, but he still took his time, making sure I was completely ready for him. "More," I gasped when one finger became two, then three, stretching me, finding that spot inside that made stars burst behind my eyelids. So eager for me, Timothy murmured, his free hand stroking soothingly along my thigh. Love how much you want this. Want me. Always want you, I managed, my body opening for him like a flower to the sun. When he finally withdrew his fingers and positioned himself at my entrance, coating his length with more lubricant, I was trembling with anticipation. He leaned down to kiss me deeply as he began to push inside, slow and steady, giving me time to adjust to the delicious stretch. Oh God, I moaned against his mouth as he filled me completely, the feeling of being joined with him so intimate, so perfect, that it brought tears to my eyes. Okay? He asked, his forehead pressed to mine, his body still as he let me adjust. Perfect. You're perfect. This is perfect. I wrapped my legs around his waist, urging him deeper. Move, please. He began to thrust, slow and deep, each movement deliberate and controlled. His length dragged against that sensitive spot inside me with every stroke, sending waves of pleasure radiating through my body. I clung to his shoulders, my nails digging into his skin as he made love to me with a tenderness that made my heart ache. I love you, Timothy whispered, his pace gradually increasing. Love you so much, Adam. My beautiful husband. My everything. Love you too, I gasped, my body tightening around him. Timothy, please. He knew what I needed without me having to ask. His hands slipped between our bodies, wrapping around my length and stroking in time with his thrusts. The dual sensation was overwhelming, pleasure building and building until I felt like I might shatter from it. That's it, baby, Timothy encouraged, his voice strained with his own approaching release. Let go for me. Let me feel you. His length hit that perfect spot inside me at the same moment his hand tightened just right around mine, and I came with a cry of his name, my release spilling between our bodies as my inner muscles clenched around him rhythmically. Adam, Timothy groaned, and I felt him pulse inside me as he followed me over the edge, his length throbbing as he filled me with his warmth. We stayed locked together for long moments, both of us trembling and gasping for breath, foreheads pressed together, hearts beating in synchronization. Finally, Timothy carefully withdrew and rolled to the side, immediately pulling me into his arms. That was... I couldn't find the words. I know, he said, pressing kisses to my hair, my forehead, anywhere he could reach. I know, baby. We lay tangled together, sticky and sated and utterly content. Timothy's fingers traced idle patterns on my back while I listened to his heartbeat slow beneath my ear. Thank you, I whispered. For what? For loving me. For fighting for us. For being the kind of man who would move heaven and earth to keep us together. Timothy tilted my chin up so he could look into my eyes. Adam, loving you is the easiest thing I've ever done. Fighting for us? That's not a sacrifice, it's a privilege. You're my soulmate. My partner. The other half of my heart. I would do anything, endure anything to keep you safe and happy in mine. Fresh tears spilled down my cheeks, but they were happy tears, grateful tears. I don't know what I did to deserve you. You existed, he said simply. You were exactly who you are, beautiful, talented, kind, passionate. You let me love you. That's all you had to do. I kissed him again, slow and sweet, tasting our future in his lips, feeling our past in his touch. When we finally pulled apart, both of us were smiling. Again? Timothy asked with a playful glint in his eye. I laughed, the sound pure joy. Give me 20 minutes to recover, and absolutely yes. He grinned and pulled me closer. Take all the time you need. We have the rest of our lives. And as I drifted off to sleep in my husband's arms, safe and loved and cherished, I knew with absolute certainty that this, us together choosing each other every single day, was the greatest gift the universe could have given us. We had died. We had been reborn. And we had learned that love, true love, was worth everything. Worth fighting for. Worth living for. Worth dying for. But most importantly, worth celebrating, in every touch, every kiss, every moment of intimacy and connection. This was our second chance. And we were going to make it count. Forever.